Sir, the first talkie film that you made was Alif Laila.
Yeah,
Can you tell us something about the film?
it was about Arabian Night story, fantasy, and M. Ismail was the actor, and Mr. Farooqi was the actor also, and Rafiq Ghaznavi was the music director.
Your next film was Sansar Leela, that was in Gujarati.
That now, after the Royal Cinetone, we separated, we partners, and we started our own Prakash Pictures in 1933. And we made the first picture, Actress, yani Mumbai Ki Mohini, with Panna and Master Bachu and Alaknanda, sister of Sitara. And this was the first picture, talkie picture, Prakash made. It was released on 9th January 1934 at Imperial Cinema. And then we produced Sansalila in Gujarati and Hindi Nai Duniya, where Rajkumari, the singer, playback singer, he came for the first time from Banaras. We engaged her, Umakant, Rajkumari, and Lallubai and all that, music director. He was music director for all our pictures.
He used to also act, I think, no?
He is acted also as a comedian. Lallubai and Ismail was the pair, like Gauri Dikshit,
Laurel and Hardy kind of.
Laurel and Hardy.
After this film, you produced what? Bombay Mail, I think.
Yeah. Bombay Mail, now I tell you the story. In Sansalila, during the production, Jayant, he was originally Zakaria Khan. He came to us from Alwar. He was in police. He said that you gave me the job. The man was quite handsome and tall and all that. We just tried him in one police inspector's role. One shot, one dialogue, Gujarati. And he spoke it somehow or other. But then we found talent in him and personality and all that, and our voice was very good. So we took him in Bombay Mail as hero, and I gave him the name Jayant, not Zakaria Khan after. Then later he became a hero and he rose up to the 700 rupees per month.
How much did you give him for Bombay Mail?
About 150
This was in 1935.
monthly, yes.
I think one should also note the fact that Jayant is father of Amjad Khan and
Yes.
Imtiaz Khan.
And later he didn't work after that. I never picked so many pictures he worked. And then later he worked in our Himalaya ki Good Mein.
I think after Bombay Mail, you made Lal Chitti,
Yeah.
Red Letter.
Ah,
Again with Panna, Jayant, Rajkumari, Alaknanda,
Yes.
Ismail.
yes.
Then I think one more film you produced, Top Ka Gola,
Ah,
with Balwant Bhatt.
yeah.
Again Noor Jahan, Jayant, Gulab,
Now
Shireen.
Topka Gola with Topka Gola started the era of Horse Bahadur. Horse Bahadur and Dog Tiger. Horse Bahadur trained horse. And we purchased the horse. And one Mr. Lekhraj was there, the trainer. And he used to take work from that horse. And then he later on worked in Challenge, His Highness, 3 pictures. And then in Ram Rajya, Ashwamedh Yajna, he was the horse, Bahadur. Then he died in Vikramaditya. Mr. Shantaram borrowed that horse for Shakuntala, for Chandra Mohan. We gave him.
But before all this, I think you directed your first film, Dreamland.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about the subject, how you came into direction, why you came into direction?
You see, when I saw that these directors, they do their own conceptions and understanding, and we cannot tell anything more because according to the talent, they do it. Then my brother said, Shankarbai Bhatt, why don't you take up the direction? Why depend on others? Then I was rather hesitant, and then I gathered the courage and I started directing. The subject was inspired by Invisible Man. It was a special effect picture,
Dreamland.
Dreamland, Khwab Ki Duniya. And Bahubhai Misri, who is the special effect expert in Mahabharat, and he directed so many mythological Ramayana pictures and all that. He was in our painting departments, and he took interest in this. So we entrusted the work, special effect work there. And this whole studio used to name him Babu Kala Dhaga.
In a sense, the phase of Prakash Pictures, which is the action phase, you can say, with a few social films thrown in. After this, the mythological phase sort of begins.
Yeah.
Did you foresee that action films will go out of fashion, or did it just come about?
No, but the urge in us was for not these action films and all that. The artistic aesthetic sense did not, just agree with our action pictures and all that. We wanted to make some good pictures, fine, beautiful pictures, which have some sense and all that. And so we started with Purnima, but then we failed there. So we made 2, 3 Leatherface and all that, but then ultimately we came to Narsi Bhagat.
But during the 30s, I can see, right up to 1939 and all, you were producing as many as 3 or 4 films in a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, how did you manage to finance so
We
many
had
films?
3 units. We had different financiers. The first picture was Mr. Darab Shah. Then he died. Then Mr. Kapurjan took over. And after Kapurjan, with Coca-Cola, Evergreen Pictures took over. They used to finance us and distribute our pictures.
But these films were made simultaneously or one after the other?
No, simultaneously.
Simultaneously. So you had 3 units or 4 units
Three,
working?
three units.
3 units. What was the approximate cost of production of these films?
About 50,000.
50,000. So from the 15,000 in the silent era, it had gone to 50,000. Okay, what were the problems of the industry in this early talkie period, in the 30s? What was the main problems of the producers?
Problem, as I told you, about the artist who could speak dialogue, who can deliver the dialogues. But later on, we got the people who can act and speak dialogue and all that. But the trouble was that there was no playback. And new theatres brought for the first time the playbacks. And R.C. Boral introduced the interlude music between the song. And after playback, it became very easy for us to take professional singers or expert singers like Amir Bhai and so many others. So that becomes easier then. That become easier afterwards, after playback. Then they introduced background song also, just to take out the emotions. Background singer like Puran Bhagat, he didn't appear in the picture, but then his song was overlapped on.
But in the 1930s was basically the studio system. Did Prakash Pictures also have a roster of stars and technicians on their...
We were stars and technicians on a monthly basis at that time. Even musicians also. One Mr. Narvekar was there. He became the first-class violin player afterwards. Then we brought Mr. Albukar from Shira Bazar with cello. And they were all permanent, monthly basis.
Who were the actors who were there with you on monthly basis?
All these actors.
All of them, Jayant,
All these
Jairaj.
Jairaj, all monthly basis.
But did you have to borrow actors from other studios?
No. They used to come off their own. They used to make, when they joined us, they used to make continuously our pictures.
The 1940s was a very turbulent period for Indian cinema in particular. Freelancing was coming into vogue. A lot of major companies were in trouble and they were on the verge of closure. How did you at Prakash Pictures react to this kind of a situation? How was Prakash facing this problem?
The freelancing was brought first time by Mr. Himalaya Trivedi. He signed Shanta Apte and some other artists who were already working in other pictures. And then the evil started. But then as and when it became popular freelancing, artists were also just like that. It started, it became very difficult. And then later on, as when it comes, I don't know, that cooperative society.
And that's a little later. But along with the artists were also the technicians leaving?
Technicians were always on permanent basis.
But were they also freelancing at this period or that came later?
No, that came later, very later.
Much later.
Very late.
So the first film of this period, in fact the first film of the 1940s, was a film which you had directed called Eki Bhool. Since this was also Meena Kumari's first film,
Yes.
can you tell us something about the subject, about Meena Kumari herself?
Ekibul, there was a transformation of the brains, you see, Jairaj and Umakant. And then it becomes a very tough problem. He speaks Umakant's language, Jairaj, Umakant speaks there, and people were present. The whole plot was around it. And Meena Kumari was as the baby artist. Her father was a music director. And her mother was a Bengali dancer. And music he was giving, and he was in touch with us. So he said once he brought his baby, so there was a role in Ekibul. So we allotted that role and gave her the name Baby Meena.
How old was she at that time?
About 7-8 years.
But at that time, did you feel that this girl will go and become a big tragedian or like any other child?
That of course, but there was a talent in her, inherent talent was there.
Then after that, Dwarka Khosla directed a film for you called Sardar with Jayant and Pramila, Amir Bhai Karnatki. And immediately around that time, you made a Tamil film,
Yes.
Desh Bhakti.
Sardar, we went to Rajpipla for outdoor. And Deshbhakti, Jayanti Vana's father came in our studio and produced picture Deshbhakti. Jayanti Vana's mother, Vasundhara, played the role there. And the picture was completed. We from our side, we gave studio shifts and all this camera and all that. And from his side, he used to pay the actors and film and all that, raw film and all that. Like that, on that basis, the partnership was done. It was only made in Tamil.
Now, there is another film which I feel marks the landmark of Prakash Pictures in the sense that this was the first mythological religious film that you undertook called Narsi Bhagat.
Yeah.
This was a bilingual again.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about this film?
Yes, this about this film, I think, first of all, we didn't know what subject we must take, either Narsi Bhagat or there was one script written by Kamal Amrohi, Romeo Juliet. And the script was ready with dialogue, and we were about to launch it. And we happened to go to Pune, and Shantaramji, we were on very good terms. We went there and they said, Abhi kya karte hain? What are you doing? What pictures you are making? We said that there are two projects in mind. One is Narsi Bhagat and this one is Romeo Juliet. Kamal Amrohi is a good writer. He made a name in Pukar. So Shantaramji said that why go in that? Why not do Narsi Bhagat? And we decided. And then Narsi Bhagat we took Pagnis because he was already popular in Tukaram and Sant Tulsidas of Ranjit, and we took him.
Vishnu Pant Pagnis.
Vishnu Pant Pagnis. And he made a wonderful role. And Durga Khote was his wife. And Ram Marathe, late Ram Marathe, he was a boy of 16 at that time. He played the son of Narsi Bhagat. And Shankarrao Vyas gave the music. Amir Bhai Karnataki was there. Again, the story was written by M.G. Dave and dialogue by Pandit Anuj.
But this was made in Hindi and Gujarati.
Hindi only. Then afterward, later on, we dubbed it in Gujarati.
Oh, you dubbed the film. It was not shot in.
No.
But how did this film do?
It made a havoc. It ran for Silver Jubilee at Krishna Cinema, which is now Dreamland. And there is one incident. We used to take hundis for finance because it's a big budget picture and financiers couldn't meet with our demand. So hundis we used to take. We had one Dalal Devumal, and there was a one song that Mori Hundi Chukao Maharaj Re Shah Samare Girdari. He wrote Hundi to Dwarkapati. Some people, some opponents told the pilgrims that he has got a pedi in Dwarka and you take a hundi of 700 rupees from them. Why don't you carry this? And he wrote hundi that right, my Dwarkadish will pay. And then there was a song he prayed, Mori hundi chukao Maharajare Savare Kirtari. Now that Dalal, Devumal Dalal, he used to come daily in that song, that hundi Dalal. And then he says that my hundi is svikar ho gayi. All the hundis were completed by us, paid, completely paid. That was the incident.
So in the case of Narsi Bhagat, you not only took Mr. Shantaram's suggestion but also his actor.
He didn't suggest actor. Then we decided. And somebody told him, अरे ये लोग के संस्कृति के बनाते हैं करते क्या नरसिंह भगत बनाएंगे तुम पहले पैसा 20,000 में नक्की किया था पहले पैसे तो बोले कि भाई मुझे पहले फर्स्ट यू पे मी कैश 20,000 then only I will work. He paid him. And when we worked, he was so engrossed in that role. And the picture was great success. Himalaya was there.
Tell me one thing, in 1940, Ek Hi Bhool and Narsi Bhagat, were they made simultaneously because you were directing both films? And they are released at around the same time?
The release was, Narsi Bhagat was released in 41. Ek Hi Bhool I finished before starting shooting. But in the meanwhile, paperwork and all was going on. Music.
Then your next film was Darshan, CM Luhar.
No. Next film was Mala. Mala was, it is a masterman, Holkins masterman story, which later on Mehboob produced as Amar. So, there was Rose, Jairaj, Jayant, and the direction was given to Jairaj and this Mahendra Thakur, which was in Sagar. He was an assistant director. And in this picture, for music we were looking for some other music director. Meanwhile, Madhok was the lyric writer, so popular lyric writer at that time. He brought Naushad, that this boy is very capable and he is working as Kamchand Prakash assistant, and he just made one picture also, Premnagar, but it didn't prove successful. So you take him, we took him. He was very shy and all that. $250 per month, and he gave good music, good tunes. Madhok wrote the lyrics and dialogues, and picture was not very super hit, but it was a success. Jairaj and Rose and
Naushad scored music for one more film then.
Then one more film, Darshan. That was the first subject on dowry system, which M.G. Dave wrote the story and Chimala Lohar directed. And there Premadip for the first time came to our studio and worked as the hero. Jyoti was there, this Nimmi's niece was there, Jyoti, and Umakant also was there, I think.
Amirbai Karnataki.
Amirbai Karnataki and all that.
And Budo Advani was there.
Budo Advani, yes. I told you that teethless fellow. When from the birth he had no teeth. Budo Advani. It was a wonder. And he played the comedy role. And picture was good success.
Budo Advani was a very popular comedian of that time.
Yes.
And, was he funny off the sets also?
Yes, sir. He was a comedian. His sense of humor and all that. Like Gope also, because of their defects, it became an asset. Like Gope was fatty, it became an asset for him.
Tell us something about CM Luhar, because Luhar directed your other film, Station Master.
After Darshan, he directed. Luhar was once a cameraman in Krishna Film Company. Then they started Mehta Luhar Productions. One Mr. Mehta was the director and Luhar was the cameraman. He was BSc. And then that was closed, that concern. And then he came to us, so we just engaged him as a director for that film. And then we gave station master to him, wherein Jagdish Shetty played the role of station master, Prem Adib played the role of hero, and then Ratnamala was introduced for the first time in that picture as a heroine. And Naushad gave a very good music. In that picture, Surya was for the first time introduced. She was 11 years old and she worked with one Madhusudan, and they sang a song, Gad Babu, Chandita Dikhao. This station master, my father's, when he was a guard, there the atmosphere we studied, that atmosphere came into this. And this BNCR railway, at that time there was no Central or Western Railway. He gave us complete train at Abu Station and we shot the whole picture. There was one Shakir also, pointsman.
I think one point I should mention at this juncture is that Ratnamala, who was the heroine of this film, later played Dada Kondke's mother in quite a few of his films.
Yes.
It is the same Ratnamala.
Same Ratnamala. He played in our Vikramaditya also against Prithviraj. In Pangat she played heroine.
This station master was, I think, based on P.L. Santoshi's story script.
P.L. Santoshi's.
Jeevan was also in it?
Jeevan was first he was Okedar. He was working under the name of Okedar as villain. For the first time we gave him the character role, head clerk Manik Babu, station master. And he became the popular character actor. And we gave him Jeevan name.
But when he had acted as Okedar in so many films, why did you change his name to Jeevan?
It was a villain's role. We wanted to change his image as a villain. And he was rather a serio-comic actor also. The way of speaking and all that, and the specs and
I think then two of your assistants, K.J. Parmar and L.J. Bhatt, directed Chudiyan for you.
Yes.
Anything about that
Maya
film?
Banerjee was
noteworthy?
Maya Banerjee and Shakir Premadip. And there in that picture we brought for the first time Ramesh Gupta, the poet, lyric writer, whose lyrics in Ram Rajya became so popular, Bharati Sanarikiyam. We brought him there, 60 rupees per day, per month. He wrote 2 or 3 songs in this picture also, Surya. And Pangat, he wrote all the songs, not all, most of the songs. And then Pandit Indra also wrote the songs. And Pandit Indra wrote the dialogues, also Pangat.
I think now we come to the first of the important films of Prakash, the bilingual Bharat Milap and Bharat Bhet.
Yeah.
How did you think in terms of producing a Hindi Marathi? Because so far you have been producing Hindi Gujarati.
In Narsi Bhagat, we come across a man, very intelligent genius, Vishnu Pant Aundkar. He wrote Marathi plays like this Aground Sutka and all that. And then he wrote the story of Pukar screenplay of Saurabh Modi. After Purnima, Sardar Akhtar came into Social Pictures and she was picked up by Saurabh Modi in the Pukar as Doban. And then he gave us, he acted in our Narsi Bhagat also as Pagni's elder brother, Narsi Bhagat's elder brother. He was a very good actor also. He played a wonderful role in Savkari Pass, Baburao Painters.
Yeah.
Then he gave us the idea that why don't you make Bharat Bhet? So Bharat Bhet means Ramayana subject. And there was one Mr. Dwivedi, Jaishankar Dwivedi, editor of Mauj Maja, the first Gujarati film weekly. He said that Ramayana is a Manu subject. Why do you take this? You will repent. But he says we will take. And we wrote the story. We sat together and he gave wonderful ideas, screenplay, Pandit Anuj, and we sat at before Ram Temple because our production executive Balubhai Shukla, he was staying in Andheri, Ram Temple, and his family has gone for the place. So we had about 2-3 months continuously we sat, Aundkar, myself, and this Pandit Anuj, and we wrote the dialogue and story, screenplay complete, and it was a wonderful screenplay made.
But when you came to Bharat Bhet, Bharat Milap, before that, did you have any reading of the Ramayana, or what was your this thing?
No, Ramayana, though it was just as a common knowledge was there. But then when we decided this, we studied Tulsikar's Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, and so many other books. Then we had to study about costumes and all that. Kanu Desai was the art director, about the architectures, sculptures, figures, so many things. We consulted Dr. Moti Chandra, who wrote the Indian costumes from the earliest times of the Gupta period. He said that you can follow Gupta period only beyond that we don't get anything. That was the glorious period of India. So we made so many research. In the booklet I have mentioned the acknowledgement of so many authors.
Was this the first time that Prem Adib was doing a mythological film?
I think so.
He had done only socials before that. But was he happy to do a mythological, or?
No, there was one thing. You see, Bharat Milap was there. Now, Bharat Milap, we took for Bharat role Modak, Shahu Modak. Now, Prem Adib said that we made Murat on him. He said that you are giving title role to this Modak, but your role is of Ram. Bharat Milap is the name. Bharat Milap is with you, with Ram. You see that. Then he accepted when we narrated the screenplay to him. And he played the role wonderful. Still it is Shobna Samarth and Prem Adib, unforgettable pair for Ram and Sita.
But did Prem Adib and Shobna Samarth become the unforgettable Ram Sita with Bharat Milap or with Ram Rajya?
Bharat Milap. First was Bharat Milap. Then we decided to do it in Marathi also. So Marathi we took Chandrakant Mandre as Ram. Shobna Samarth was common, Ram Modak was common, Durgabai was common, Durga Kote played Kaikeyi. And other artists that Valmiki Badri Prasad was changed to the Bandopan Sawani.
Were the two versions shot simultaneously?
Yeah. Shot by shot.
So how were you doing it? Were you doing
shot.
a Hindi shot and then a Marathi shot?
Yes.
That way?
Yes.
But
and all the artists with makeup well ready. Shobna was the common artist. And Nimbalkar was the common artist, Dasharath.
But when you were making Bharat Milap, Bharat Bhet, did you at that point of time think that, look, this is going to be a milestone of Indian cinema?
We had all hopes because the artists were all engrossed in that. And music also came out very well. And I don't know whether I've told you the incident that in one shot when Ram and Lakshman and Sita were going to forest, taking leave from Dasharath, after doing that shot, all the characters cried. So 1.5 hours, next shot I couldn't do. They were so engrossed in that. This is the acting.
Yeah. The film was also shaping well.
Yeah.
So, because of the success of Bharat Milap and Bharat Bhet, did you think of Ram Rajya or?
Bharat Milap, we went to Delhi and Mr. J.K. Birla, Jugal Kishore Birla, the old man, he came to see the picture. We invited him. And then after seeing the picture, he told us that, now why don't you make Love Kush? So we thought that because we have made a wonderful picture and we have got all the gadgets and all that, sets, and so we decided to do it. And then when we came, we said that why not give Ram Raj a popular title to this picture. And Aundkar readily accepted that. because it was his pet subject. And we again wrote the same screenplay in that opposite Ram Mandir. This is because of Ram's grace that we got success, of Ram's grace.
In between this, there was another film called Pangat, which was being done by your assistants again.
Yes, yes.
Parmar and Mahesh Chandra. Anything noteworthy in this film?
There we gave for the first time the chance to Mr. S.N. Tripathi, who recently died at the age of 75. He was actor also, mythological pictures actor. He played Hanuman, and he was a violinist in Bombay Talkies at that time on permanent list. We took him as music director, and he gave good music in Pangat. And Ramesh Gupta, who wrote the lyrics of Ram Rajya, he wrote some of the lyrics of Pangat. There one song, Dur Chala Chal, Tu Kahin Dur Chala Chal, Matlabi Duniya Se Kahin Dur Chala Chal. It was a very popular song.
And they did another film, Kavita, with practically the same cast.
Ratnamala and
Ratnamala, Jeevan, Umakant.
But it was a failure.
There's another interesting film that was done at around this time called Police. This time again with Premadeep in a social role. And Ratnamala, Jeevan.
Ratnamala is the heroine, was the heroine. Amirbai was there, and Shahnawaz. He was there. He went to Pakistan later on, but this picture at that time, war time was there. So every film company has to produce some instructional pictures, which will be, guide the public. And so we took the police. Okay, what a disciplined police must be. So he was a police, and his brother Shahnawaz was a smuggler, gangster. And his wife. This was the first time that two brothers, villain and hero. Then afterwards it came in Ganga Jamna and all that. And he was a police. And this Amirbai was his bhabhi, Shahna's wife. And when he comes to arrest, because she has brought up this boy, Premadeep, police. So when he comes to arrest his brother, he says, तुम अपने बड़े भाई को अरेस्ट करते हो, मैंने तुमने पाला पोसा बड़ा किया ये, so it is my duty. So from that it started.
Many more films were made.
Diwar and Ganga Jamna and all that.
The other interesting thing about this
and
film
then there is one thing interesting. Panaral Ghosh, the famous flute player, he was made the music director for the first time in that picture.
Any special reason for that?
Not special, but just variety, change.
Because this was a social subject which did not have much music in it.
It had very good music.
What was the audience acceptance of Premadeep in a social role immediately after his good. Ram appearance?
Very good.
Then I think you have a film called Hamara Sansar, directed by Shanti Kumar. Sumati Gupte was
she played a role.
Vasant Joglekkar's wife.
Yes.
And Ranjana. Jeevan, Umakant.
And one Rajkumari was there.
Yeah.
And then Baby Tara also was there, who played later in Ram Rajya Vasanti.
After this is another very notable film which you yourself directed called Vikramaditya, which was made for the bi-millennium centenary of Vikramaditya. Can you tell us something about that?
The committee, the Gwalior Maharaja was the chairman. Committee requested us to make this picture to commemorate his biennial centenary, Vikram era. And we made a research. We didn't take that usual Vikramaditya Vaital story and all those miracles and all that. But we did it in a historical way, that we went to Ujjain. Suryanarayan Vyas was the expert in that history. And we studied the whole thing, and then we prepared the picture. Prithviraj played the title role, and Ratnamala the heroine, and Baburao Pendarkar played Vaital Bhatt.
Oh. And what about Premadeep?
Premadeep played as Kalidas, poet Kalidas.
And after this, I think was the film you were talking of, Nirmala Arun, Ghungat,
Gungat, yes.
Shanti Kumar's.
Yes.
This thing. What was the subject about?
The subject is, you see, the woman, the girl who is married to the boy, she didn't like her. She never saw her face in Kungat. She didn't and went away. And then afterwards, then she made her the modern
Acha.
girl.
Ah.
And then he fell in love with that girl and married. And then he came to know that he is my own married wife. She is my own married wife.
This is a subject which has been repeated again.
Yes,
many
yes.
times.
Afterwards, it was repeated so many times.
I think another point to note here is that Nirmala and Arun were the parents of Govinda,
Yeah.
the present actor.
Ah.
But then you had a film called Naima
Hmm.
with KJ Parmar directing.
Yeah.
Rajkumari Shukul.
Shukla. Rajkumari Shukla, Ranjana and Jeevan. And she was Naima. This was second marriage, Jeevan's. And Naima used to pay so much attention to his children, the old wife's children, that he had no time to go to Jeevan. And there was a clash then at that time, that why do you give that? You come here in my bedroom and all that. And Jeevan was a man who was dealing with spurious drugs, injections, fake injections and all that. Ultimately, he was arrested and all that. There maybe Shama, who came the
Ranjana.
Shama, who became the famous actress afterwards. At that time, Baby Shama was his name. I gave her the name Baby Shama. She acted in that.